5:30, time to call our meeting to order. It's Monday, February 5th. Carl?
Councilmember Remley.
Here.
Ronayne.
Here.
Lunsman.
Here.
Slate Hansen.
Here.
Johnson.
Here.
Bunceness.
Here.
Olson.
Here.
Rux.
Here.
Mayor Leibson.
Here, Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And need a motion for last week's minutes.
Moved. Second.
Motion Bunceness, second by Rux. If there are no changes, all in favor of approving, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Nobody signed up for open forum, so we have for old business, possible second reading of two ordinances that were discussed and voted on last week. The first is Ordinance 17-1207, revising the city code relating to taxi cabs. Ron, where are we with this?
Let me review for the council where we're presently at. That after passing first reading, as part of first reading, the company Lyft had provided some responses to that initial draft. I have provided the council as part of the agenda packet a copy of their red line changes, and also in response to each, in the notes section, you will see that I had also provided my response to those various provisions. And for those of you who want me to, I can pull that up. Oops, wrong one. And on the screen in front of you are the red line changes that Lyft had proposed. And again, I don't want to belabor the point. I always start with the premise that you folks read everything we send you. So you will see my comments there to the various changes proposed by Lyft. And essentially to all of the changes, I have noted up my opposition to those, and for the reasons set forth. Just so you're aware, I had provided Lyft with notice of the February 5th second reading date. That was by email to Timothy Burr, who is the gentleman who had spoken to the council at first reading. That was an email on January 19th, and he was provided with what you see in front of you. And I have not received any comment from Mr. Burr, and nor do I understand that a Lyft representative is present today. But I did want to apprise the council of my responses in a formal way to the proposals from Lyft. And lastly, as we move into hopefully a motion for second reading, I do have 4 recommendations that I would like to make for amendments to the ordinance at second reading. And I don't know if you'd like me to go through those now, or if you'd like me to deal with those. I see one person shaking their head no.
I know how to read.
Okay.
So does the council. But I would move Ron's amendments.
We would need a motion for second reading.
Oh, I'm sorry.
First.
So moved.
Motion, Ronayne, second by Rux for second reading and final adoption. And then Ron, if you would just, if nothing else, go through the title of the amendments, and if there's more.
Thank you.
Required.
Thank you, Mayor. What I have before you on the screen is the ordinance at second reading. To make it a little easier for you folks to read, I've actually put the ordinance as it presently exists in black. So that makes it a little easier. My changes are as follows. Excuse me. The first is a change at section 58-82. You will see I've put in brackets CA, that stands for City Attorney. Those are my recommended change for 58-82A. I believe that the language there is actually one negative too many, and it actually is the opposite of what is intended. And so just to make it clear, I propose a rewrite to delete the second sentence and add in, no license shall be granted to any person who is addicted to the use of alcohol or drugs or is not of good moral character. That's my first recommended change.
You want to do these one at a time, or?
We
motion?
may. Do we?
Yeah, we probably should.
Moved.
Yeah.
Second.
Motion Business and second by Johnson. Questions on the motion to amend this particular part of it? If not, everybody understand what the amendment is? All in favor of it, then say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries.
So this is the way that will look then.
And you'll take out CA, though?
Yep, I will remove CA. With both 5883 and 58107, I believe, dealing with driverless vehicles, and there had been a conversation and discussion about whether this clearly was intended to just be limited to this chapter, or whether the prohibition would ban all driverless vehicles. And to keep it within the context of this chapter, I am proposing that driverless vehicles are prohibited in the city limits be deleted, and the use of a driverless vehicle as a taxi cab or motor bus is prohibited in the city limits be inserted.
Moved.
Second.
Motion Ronayne, second by Lunsman. Questions on this one? All in favor of making that change, then say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Next.
Consistent with one of the points raised by Lyft, I propose that we delete the language "to the finance officer" in 58-107, as it's obvious that that's all that it would go to, would be the finance officer, or other entities within the city could also, myself specifically referenced there, could seek that verification. The other had to do with the phrase "knowing allowance," and I am comfortable that the use of that phrase in statute, and then at 58-106, we can change that language and basically simply use the language that you'll see at the end of 58-105. So I'm proposing that we delete the second sentence of 58-107 and replace it with the language that you see on the screen.
Moved.
Second.
Motion Ronayne, second by Rux. Questions on this one? All in favor of making that change, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries.
And the last proposed change is at 58-109, again, making sure that we're keeping the driverless vehicles context to the prearranged ride that is the portion of this particular division. So propose deleting the line "driverless vehicles are prohibited in the city limits," and adding the use of a driverless vehicle to provide a prearranged ride as defined under this chapter is prohibited in the city limits.
Move. Second.
Motion Olson, second by Remley. Questions on this one? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Ron, would it be your opinion that these changes are not substantive enough to force us into a final adoption 1 week from?
It would not be my opinion. I believe that having made these changes, we've never used it before, and I'm trying not to abuse the statute, but I think that these are substantive alterations of the ordinance at second reading. So it's very possible we would need another meeting for final adoption.
So then a motion to postpone until next week would be in order,
I would propose that we go ahead and move forward
All
with approving second reading, and then we do a second motion to ask the finance office to post notice.
Okay. Questions or comments then on the overall ordinance as amended? Jen?
Okay, so I want to propose an amendment, and I would like to propose that we remove all references to driverless vehicles. I know I already did this once, and you guys voted it down. I'm hoping maybe I'll get a second tonight and we can talk about it again.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Comments? Jen, we have a second.
I just, again, I think that we are being premature here in banning the use of something that right now isn't even out on the market yet. Driverless vehicles are not are not being they're not allowed by the federal government yet. So for us to be banning them now, I think that we're jumping ahead of things here. I don't understand the fear. Quite honestly, I don't understand the fear of this technology, and I just think that we shouldn't be getting ahead of ourselves by banning something that isn't here yet.
Mike?
I'm comfortable with the prohibition we have in here because it's restricted to just driverless or for taxi cab and these special drivers. It doesn't apply to any other driver in the city or any other vehicle, let's say. So I'm comfortable with this prohibition as it restricts to these special circumstances.
Other comments, questions on the amendment? If not, we're ready to vote. A yes vote will remove the language driverless vehicle from the entire ordinance. All those in favor of removing driverless vehicle references, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no.
No.
The motion fails. Back to the discussion of the ordinance as amended with Ron's amendments.
I have another proposed amendment. Then I would like us to sunset this driverless vehicle reference. I talked to Ron about that. He said that this is something that we can do in city law. I'd like to put in there that it sunsets 2 years from now, and that forces us to go back and look at this again and make a determination. I think that we're being premature, but I think that if we sunset it, then it forces us to revisit this in a couple of years. And, I'm thinking, and Ron, you told me what the language was, sunset like in March of 2020. That way we will come back and revisit.
Is there a second?
Second.
Other comments, or did you want more?
Well, no, I think I made my comments.
Okay.
That's
Other comments on this amendment?
I have one, if I may, Mayor. What I'm hearing proposed and what I'm seeing typed here doesn't sound quite the same to me. You're talking about an automatic repeal without further action, where the language used verbally here was to revisit. So
yes.
What is being
yes. An automatic repeal, but I think what we had talked about was that we would be able to keep that in reference and that it would force us to revisit it 2 years from now.
David?
So Ron, is this the way that you would handle sunsets? Is it's automatic, so we don't have to have this, you don't have to remember 2 years from now that.
That's right. To be a sunset, we would place in there a date definite that it repeals, that it dies. And that would place it upon those people who want to keep it to bring it up prior to that.
Other questions on the amendment? Not. All those in favor of the amendment, which would make us revisit this in 2 years, I think everybody understands. All those who want to do what Jen wants to do with
you just said something different than what this doesn't force us to revisit this, does it?
No.
No, it doesn't. You're right.
If you're okay with it being repealed in 2 years.
It repeals automatically.
It's automatic. We could forget about this and it'll just go away and we won't revisit this.
I think actually the term sunset describes very adequately what we're doing. We all know what that means. So, all right.
Meaning that, to clarify, language referencing a driverless vehicle would be deleted in 2 years.
Yeah, let me be a little clearer with what the language is, I believe.
You don't type very fast.
Okay. We have a motion and a second to amend and do what Jennifer wants to do. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, no.
No.
Carl, roll call, please.
Councilmember Remley?
Aye.
Ronayne?
No.
Lunsman,
No.
Slate Hansen,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Bunceness,
No.
Olson,
No.
Rux,
Aye.
Mayor Leveson.
No.
5 noes, 4
Okay.
ayes.
So we are back now to the original motion for second reading. Other questions, comments, or amendments? If not, Carl, roll call, please, for second reading as including the amendments that came from the city attorney.
Councilmember Rux,
Aye.
Olson,
Aye.
Bunceness,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Slate Hansen,
No.
Lunsman,
Aye.
Ronayne,
Aye.
Remley,
Aye.
Mayor Leveson.
Aye. Motion carries. And Ron, this will return. How will this? We have not done this before. How does this show up on the agenda when we've already approved second reading? What?
I had proposed a possible motion, and you'll see it in the council action request, and would ask that someone move to, that the finance officer give at least 5 days' notice of the public meeting. And I want to explain something to the council. The wording on this particular statute at 9-19-7 is terrible. It's very difficult to figure out. And I think if you authorize the city finance officer to post this notice, I have the notice of public meeting ready. We can get this posted tomorrow, and with the 5 days' notice, we'd be able to put this on for next week. So we'd have a final adoption the next council meeting.
So moved to have the finance officer post this.
Second.
Motion Rux, second by Lunsman. Questions what we're doing?
So amendments are still accepted next meeting,
It would be final adoption, so
but there
yes.
could be an amendment. Okay.
Gives you another week, Jennifer. All those in favor of the city attorney taking that action, say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. Okay, next is ordinance 180102, revising Chapter 8 of the Animals and Fowl of the City Code. Ron, bring us up to date on what we're doing here, please.
For the council's benefit, I again place the amendment that has been passed at first reading in black, and it is in front of the council right now, so we can see what was approved at first reading. And I have received no other comments from public regarding the version passed at first reading.
So would entertain a motion for second reading, final adoption.
So moved. Second.
Motion Ronayne, second by Johnson. Questions, comments, amendments?
Amendment, I will bring back the amendment I had last week that includes the word vicious, and that would be dangerous, vicious, or unsafe.
Is there a second?
Wording.
Second.
Second by Rux. Ron, any comments from you on the mechanics of this change here?
I have for the council, and Dave had warned me ahead of time that he'd be making this motion, so I have provided for the council the insertion of the word vicious as the motion has been made at 8:10 and then throughout. What the motion, as I understand it, is a addition of, well, the retention actually of vicious that had been originally deleted.
Right.
And again, it would be my position, and I'm motivated in part by what the mayor commented on last week. Vicious is the word that is used in the statute and is the word that our South Dakota Supreme Court is very, very familiar with and uses throughout. If the council votes to approve this motion at second reading, again, it would be my position that it's a substantial alteration and we'd be going to another final adoption reading.
Questions or comments on the amendment of adding the word vicious?
So I just want to clarify here. I did watch the video from last week, and so I have an understanding of the discussion, and I also visited with Ron as well. But just to clarify for me here, the underlined and black are the changes that were made last week and approved, and so the red is the only thing that we're talking about tonight. Is that right? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Other questions, comments on the amendment? Mark?
Yeah, I'm going to change my vote on this. I'm going to vote for this amendment, mainly because we had an incident last summer that Jim Grandpré lost one of his dogs by a vicious animal, and he was out walking his dogs on city property and was attacked by two big dogs, and he didn't get any restitution. He probably won't. And we as a council, I think, have to do something better. I mean, we have to work harder at helping the victims, because he was definitely a victim on this deal. And the only thing he got out of it was a broken heart. And I don't know what to do, but I think we need to do something.
Mike, you had a comment?
I think I'd like the chief or John to comment on this amendment if we approve this, how this will affect your departments.
The animal laws have been growing and changing since I've taken this over. When I started out here, basically if a dog was chasing livestock, we had a law to handle that. Everything else was just between people. But over the years, it's gotten way more complicated, and Aberdeen's a wonderful place to live, and everybody tries to do right by everybody else. When we started with the ordinance, dangerous and vicious, that was the way it was all over the state, and we've been acting on that. Now, as it continues to grow and public views are changing, we have pet parents that are actually hurt by the fact that I'm referring to their dogs under the Dangerous and Vicious Act. The addition of the word unsafe, I think, provides me with a way to deal with these folks. We're getting the same results, but we're doing it in such a way that there's more chance of compliance and good feeling that will continue between the people who had the incident and who owned the dogs and stuff like that. I can guarantee you that we're not giving any less consideration to any sort of act that we did before. But as having said that, the retention of the word vicious, as long as we add on the words unsafe so that we can deal with the situations as it has in the degree that is necessary, then I don't see any problems with keeping that word in the ordinance.
Thanks, officer. Other questions?
Like I say, for me, this just comes down to, this is just one. We're not taking out unsafe. We're just giving you an option for some of those attacks that may be beyond the norm, and it also helps our animal board when they have when something comes before them and those serious attacks, that gives them a word that maybe they can use to describe it. And it aligns with state law and what the Supreme Court does, so I think it's more enforceable.
Other questions on the amendment?
Can we have comments also from the chief regarding the committee that meets sometimes to deal with situations that arise?
Certainly. John did a good job explaining, this definition, and the Animal Review Board does a good job, and it reviews the circumstances. It reviews what John does, how he looks at a particular situation, the conclusion that he makes, the things that he places, the restrictions on the animal. We're not discrediting the situation that Councilman Remley is talking about. We look at all these differently, but as we know, each situation has its own circumstances, its own context. So the word unsafe seems to be a term that applies sometimes in the explanation we're giving citizens on why we're taking particular actions with the ordinance, and it seems that they're they're able to understand it more clearly because the word unsafe requires an explanation. It's unsafe because of a particular situation or circumstance that maybe they can control. So, like John is talking about, there's more buy-in if you allow us to have this term in this ordinance. It helps us, and I'm not opposed with keeping vicious in this. I think vicious is a fit for situations and definitely applicable and bridges us to the state or laws too. So I think it's a good compromise.
You know, I was maybe I was at the wrong meeting last week, but I thought that the use of the word vicious is what you thought made your job harder, and so I was I opposed that amendment last week because I think we need to stand behind our employees, give them the tools that they need to do their job, and I thought we were handicapping your ability to do that. But if I hear you today and I hear the chief today, you no longer see that as a problem. And so if you don't see it as a problem, I don't see it as a problem. I'm going to support this amendment.
Yeah, I'm in the same vein as Commissioner Ronayne. I had felt the same feedback last week and wanted to filter out some of the emotion that seemed to be driving. I appreciate that passion. It seems to be propelled by maybe one or two incidents that have been described, but if the terminology of dangerous, vicious, or unsafe is acceptable to law enforcement, to animal control, I think that makes sense to move forward.
Okay. Anyone else?
I'd like to. I've sat on the Animal Review Board for, partner, 20 years, and I appreciate having the unsafe portion put in there for John. But for the Animal Review Board itself, I appreciate having the vicious in there as well. Makes it a little easier when we're dealing with individuals at a board meeting to help them actually understand the issue that we have with their animal. So I would like to have that stay in, please.
Okay. We're ready to vote? The amendment would add the word vicious. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. And we, as amended, that brings us back to the main motion. The effect of the main motion now would not be final adoption, but would be second reading, and final adoption would then presume to be next week. So any questions or comments then on the overall ordinance second reading? Carl?
Councilmember Remley?
Aye.
Ronayne?
Aye.
Lunsman?
Aye.
Slate Hansen?
Aye.
Johnson?
Aye.
Bunceness?
Aye.
Olson?
Aye.
Rux?
Aye.
Mayor Leveson?
Aye. Motion carries. Do we need a motion then to bring it back?
Yep.
Same motion as last time to authorize the city attorney to bring this back next week for final adoption.
So moved.
Second.
Motion Bunceness, second by Rux. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you, John.
Can we move to amend it again next week too?
We can add another word.
I'm sitting here thinking.
You can come up with another adjective.
I'm sitting here thinking, if you wanted to prolong something out, you just, instead of having all your amendments at once, you just keep piecemeal.
Do one at a time. You can slow walk these things to death.
Great, we can work on this in July.
Next on the agenda, the consent calendar, just one item, approving a cab license. Need a motion on that.
So moved.
Second.
Motion Johnson, second by Remley. All in favor of approving, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Under new business, we have a request from the county assessor's office of $17,111 worth of abatements. The city share would be $4,827, and they are for residential properties in the city that have had their assessments adjusted for the reasons that you have available in what was sent to you. So I would entertain a motion to do that.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion Ronayne, second by Olson. Questions on any of them? All in favor of approving that then say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Item B. Chief is here to ask us to buy an ambulance. And pretty self-explanatory, I guess. The request is for a 2018 Type 3 Horton ambulance. Less a trade-in allowance for a net price of $161,555.
Move to approve.
Motion Ronayne, second by Remley. Questions of the chief on this? All in favor of approving that order, then say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Thanks, Chief.
Nice job.
Item C, a request to purchase a backhoe from Minnesota State Contract Listings in the amount of $119,052, and Lynn said he would handle this.
Okay, thank you. The bid amount is approximately 42% off the listed price by buying it through the state contract. This acquisition is approximately $5,947 below the budgeted amount of $125,000 for this piece of equipment. And the good part about this acquisition is we need to replace the backhoe out at the cemetery, so we'll take this 2007 backhoe and transfer it out to the cemetery, which will replace a 20-year-old backhoe.
Move.
Second.
Motion Business and second by Remley to approve, to grant that request to purchase. Questions on it? All in favor, then say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Item D is a similar item on the agenda. This recommendation to purchase refuse collection unit for solid waste. Lynn?
This is even better news. The budgeted amount for this acquisition was $130,000. If you go through and add together the various different components, it comes out at $97,552. The low bid for the cab and chassis was Harrison Truck Center at $80,652, and for the Packer body, the low bid was Olympic Sales at $16,900 after trade-in.
Moved.
Second.
Motion Johnson and second by Ronayne. Questions on this one? All in favor of approving that recommendation on the bid, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. And item E is a payment request for retainage on the reconstruction work. And Stuart's here to tell us about this. Stuart?
You pretty much hit it on the head there, Mr. Mayor. That's just releasing retainage on the 2016 8th Avenue reconstruction project.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion Ruck, second by Johnson. The amount is $10,000 was the retainage. Questions on it? All in favor of approving, then say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Bills presented for payment tonight. Wellmark Insurance, $134,000. Dental charges to Nationwide Employee Benefits, $97. MetLife February life premium, $557. U.S. Bank credit card, $37,653. A meeting registration for Bob Zine, Nelson, and Thorstensen to the APWA, $150. Municipal League legislator meeting and dinner for city officials, $300. AT&T cell phone roaming charges, $1,037. UPS charge $69. Transmission charges related to Ordway to Northwest Energy, $25.77. Oxygen for ambulances to Matheson, $80, and copier fees to Marco, $126. Motion Ronayne, second by Bunsness. Questions on any of them? Carl?
Councilmember Rux.
Aye.
Olson.
Aye.
Bunceness.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Slate Hansen.
Aye.
Lunsman.
Aye.
Ronayne.
Aye.
Remley.
Aye.
Mayor Leeson.
Aye, motion carries. Item G is payroll from January 21 to February 3 and City Share Social Security, Old Age Survivors, Insurance, Retirement, Health, and Life.
Moved.
Second.
Motion Johnson and second by Bunsness, Olson, one of those two. Olson. Carl?
Councilmember Remley.
Aye.
Ronayne.
Aye.
Lunsman.
Aye.
Slate Hansen.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Bunceness.
Aye.
Olson.
Aye.
Rux.
Aye.
Mayor Leeson.
Aye, motion carries. Lynn?
Okay, thank you, Mayor Leeson. I have one quick item I want to make reference to. Within the manager's report, I provided you actually I didn't provide, engineering provided you the 2017 garbage and recycling report. And if you go to the first page under garbage and rubbish and you look at the 2017 income and expense report, you'll see that we had a slight deficit. So at some time throughout the year, Carl and I will probably be presenting a rate increase for this particular area.
For 2018 or 2019?
We'll have to do some more calculations, but we know for certain for 2019 it might have to implement it maybe halfway through the year for 2018.
Okay, is that it for Lynn?
Yes.
I was just going to mention, anyone watching tonight, Lynn, when you were talking about the good news we were saving on those 2 purchases, that isn't money that we're going to have available, but those are related to enterprise accounts. And so it's not as if we're saving money that we have that we can spend on something else in our general fund or capital fund. That's just remains, I guess, a plus factor in those enterprise operations. So in case anybody watching was thinking, hey, there's some money we saved, we can get at it. But.
And get back to your earlier statement there, it's very true, because you take, for example, when I was talking about the 2017 income and expense report, where it showed a slight negative number. Well, with the savings on the acquisition of $30,000, it could probably put us in a position of not doing rate increase until 2019 versus 2018 because of that savings. Okay. But it doesn't impact the general fund, like you say.
Yep. Okay. Anything from anyone else before we adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion Olson, second by Bundsmith. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned.